talking about wasteful spending or non-optimal funding, and the fact that every rupee spent on Manrega, Supriya, could potentially be spent better. You could get higher return on your spending if you were spending on public infrastructure, which is what the BJP is trying to do, unlike what you were trying to do, which is just to hand out cash in the hope that they'll vote you back to power.
So it's very rich for us sitting here at the Moria Sheraton to say that what we do for the poor is doles and what we do for the rich is incentive. That's the classic problem that this government is obsessed with. I'd like to actually counter question you and ask, when corporate rates effectively come down by 5 percentage points, is that dole or incentive? When surcharge for the super rich in this country comes down significantly, is that dole or incentive? I mean, let's not get carried away. And if the Prime Minister hated Manrega so much, he wouldn't have...
Tax collections have gone up since. Despite the pandemic, there is greater regularization in tax collections. Tax collections are showing more buoyancy. In fact, one of the reasons why the fiscal deficit is better than most people would have expected to, because tax collections have been more buoyant.
Fiscal deficit is at 8.8%, including the government's fiscal deficit and the PSUs. You're letting the PSUs do their own bidding. The fiscal deficit is as high as 8.8%. The government may not admit it in parliament. The government's record is showing a very different picture. I have a counter question to anything that is being said here on doles and rights. The reality is that you have to incentivize consumption. What has this government done to incentivize consumption? You're actually telling people in this country, you know, to answer the question on Manrega first, actually. The Prime Minister said Manrega is a monumental failure and how he's had to spend every year more on Manrega. In fact, the BJP governments are now talking about an urban Manrega of sorts. An urban
Sudhanshuji, respond to this.
Scheme.
If it's such a failure of the UPA, you've now been in power for 9 years. Ab tak to UPA failures ko aapko khatam kar dena chahiye.
50,000 crore rupees was allocated for Manrega. You had to spend 90,000 crore. You've cut it down by 1/3 in this budget. What good?
Actually, there is a fundamental difference in the approach of ours and theirs. When
you
say that provide 1 rupee in the hand of a person to spend it at his or her will. This is an empirical study that contributes to the 45 paisa to 90 paisa in the economy. But if you put it in the capital expenditure and creates an infrastructure, it provides 3.45 rupees in the long run. But look at our Supriya ji. She is saying that the PSU's deficit is that. I challenge her that post-liberalization, can he quote a single budget in which the PSU's deficit is included in the fiscal deficit? The answer is categorically no. But in order to create a situation and in order to evade what is the real thing, I want to say just one thing. We have given 81 lakh self-help groups to the women. 34 people are getting the Mudra loans. At the fundamental level, 80 crore people are getting food support, those who are the poorest of the poor. But on the upper side, if you say, first time we are manufacturing the BrahMos missile, exporting it. Now, Philippines has become the first country. Now the Airbus has joined and fighter aircraft is being manufactured here. I just want to ask one question. Our scientists and engineers were capable enough of making Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan, but they were not capable of making a fighter plane. Does this thing sound logical? We were capable of making intercontinental ballistic missile, but not the light machine guns. Does this thing sound logical? No. The previous government was not interested.
And you had wrong
Might
priorities.
be because business can carry on in some other way to make some people super rich.
Because people were benefiting in the UPA from weapon imports. I think Sudhanshuji's managed to get a round of applause, which is interesting.
You can coax one out of the audience if you say that one more time.
Was that?
You can coax an applause out of the audience.
This was completely unsolicited.
Anyways,
they're welcome to clap or not clap whenever they want. Anyway, that you wanted to continue importing weapons from abroad because there were people in the UPA gravy train who were benefiting from it, whether it is the AK-203 project in Amethi or the BrahMos, which is being manufactured again in Uttar Pradesh and elsewhere. The BJP is trying to make India Atmanirbhar. From semiconductors, they are attempting to get them into India. Electronics manufacturing in the NCR region, defense manufacturing. It's all an attempt in the right direction. It will take time to show results, but they're pushing in the right direction.
What is Atmanirbhar? To my understanding, it translates into self-reliance. And any country can only be so self-reliant as far as people have jobs to do. The BJP's track record on jobs, I don't think I have to sit and eulogize it here or put out the numbers. Their track record on jobs is dismal. They've now been in government for 9 years. So to say what UPA did and what you did not do, let's not get carried away. Yes, the BJP has done something unprecedented. He speaks about missiles. You know, a day before the budget, the economic survey puts out numbers. Industrial production growth is down to 4.1% from 10.3%. What is their explanation? Why is that growth dipping? Why are those numbers dismal? Why is the job scenario so grim? The problem is that it's very good to sit here and make boisterous statements. Can you explain to me why is our trade deficit at China at an alarming $100 billion, unprecedented in India and China's bilateral trade? And let me tell you, no. Before you go any further, they'll say, we have become the largest or the second largest or the third largest, whatever he said, mobile manufacturers. Who's inflating that mobile bill? Who's inflating the trade deficit bill with China? The mobile making companies. What are we talking about? I mean, let's talk in the
Ashwini ji, is that not something that bothers you, that post Galwan the government said they would ban Chinese apps, that they would try and restrict trade with China? Instead, the deficit in India's trade with China has actually gone up much more than in the past, and that continues to happen. So isn't that something you should be critiquing? How does the Swadeshi Jagran Manch wrap its head around this?
See, we have always been telling the government that this deficit with China is getting more and more serious, and therefore we need to do something. Government did a right thing in 2018 to raise the tariffs on electronics and telecom, and that produced results. Everybody here would agree with me that after that only our mobile production has increased, and this has also led to increase in the exports of mobiles and other telecom products. But there is a confusion in the government, I must say, and we have always been saying so, and just one day before we had issued a statement that we should have raised tariffs. We should have raised tariffs during this, and we have to make strategic calculations that where the tariffs are to be increased. There is, Sudhanshu ji, I would like you to really pass it on to the Finance Minister. We have also been saying that there is one example. Our viscose, there are about 7-8 viscose factories, plants. 7 of them are not working, they are idle, for the simple reason that viscose is coming via Vietnam under ASEAN agreement, and it is coming at a lower tariff. We need to do something. We have to make strategic efforts. Yes, government will have to go and change the ASEAN agreement or whatever we have to do. But this is only an example. There are several other examples. That is the reason why our economic analysts keep on making holy cow out of this intermediates imports. Intermediates, we are having, as Sudhanshu ji was also saying, that we have a lot of capabilities. We could do everything. We could make Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, everything. But can't we make these intermediates? Yes, we can. I have given you one example. There can be several such examples. We have to make efforts to stop Chinese imports, and China has been deliberately doing it. During UPA government, there was 3,000% increase in the imports from China. That is also to be seen. And obviously, this continues. Then why? Why? Because we have not made sufficient efforts, but PLI scheme is good. All other efforts which are being made is good. When we are saying, yes, we have to impose technical barriers, that is also okay. But without tariffs, I don't think, as a student of economics, I don't think it should not be like Nehruvian tariffs of 400%, 700%, but it has to be raised from 5% to 10% or to 15%, wherever we can make our people competitive.
Okay.
So of late, Swadeshi Jagran Manch has stopped talking about the custom duties that are raising, because they now have held a brief for Mr. Adani. And I want to talk about
we have raised.
Very good, sir.
This is not correct. This is not correct. One day before we had issued
sir,
it's not that. We have always been saying so. We have always been saying so. Please don't say.
No, no.